Hello everyone, welcome to a new Pick-A-Card reading. I'm Leila, the Lenormand reader, and if you're new to my channel, welcome. We do readings with the amazing Lenormand deck. So for this Pick-A-Card reading, my friends, we are looking at what is the next big thing for you. I've got 5 stones here and we're going to do one reading for each of these stones. So I want you to tune into which stone you are resonating with right now so that you can go ahead and do that reading or explore that reading for yourself. We've got the Lapis Lazuli stone. We've got the rose quartz stone. We've got this interesting cat's eye stone and serpentine, as well as bloodstone. So think about which one of these stones you want to tune into for your reading. I'm going to go ahead and zoom this in for you so that you can focus your intention and you can stop the video for as long as you need so that you can make your decision. And once you've done that, head over to the timestamp and I will see you in that reading. All right, Lapis group, here we are with your stone and we are ready for your reading. What I have in mind for you, what I feel like doing is a simple 9-card portrait. It's a simple spread, but it is a very deep spread. Remember, we are focusing on what is the next big thing for you. My deck is shuffled and I want to fan out the deck and draw the cards. All right, Lapis, here we are with your cards. I am seeing a lot of changes in your cards. We are seeing the stork right in the center of your portrait, which has to do with a lot of changes and movement. And on top of that, we're seeing the road and the mountain. So I have to wonder if you're not in for some travel or if you're making some changes that are a bit deeper than usual. Certainly there is a shaking of things that is going on here. You have the green light to get going. If things were on hold, you can now look forward to some movement. So I think this is pretty exciting. And I do think that relief and that idea of finally being able to move forward is really well captured by the cards. At the top of your portrait, we have the letter. This has to do with news, information. It does cover your own card, your own position here at the top of the portrait. So I have to wonder if you're not the one who needs to send out some communication. Maybe if you find that things had been delayed, it's a good time to follow up on them. And also, if you receive the news, then certainly it's a good news that puts things into motion like we suggested. You know, the idea that things can move forward after possibly a time when they were on hold. In all cases, the letter seems to kick off everything. It's this news, this information. So this is the next big thing for you, Lapis group. There is this news that kicks things off. Maybe you're the one who sends off the news, but even if you're the one who receives it, we are seeing this idea of things being set into motion, the idea of things picking up, movement, change. I think a lot of energy as well, activity is really coming into play. So let's weave all of these cards together and bring out more details from your portrait. We've got the letter, stork, and garden. I really think this has to do with an invitation or a gathering or being invited to be with some people. The garden is the card of community, of events and gatherings. So I feel that maybe the letter can be this indication of an invitation, the idea of having to be part of something or wanting to be part of something. And certainly with the stork, it's a good idea to explore this place or this group of people. With the fish, stork, and ring, I think this is a very positive card for money, for work, for all things that have to do with business. The fish is the money card and the ring is the relationship card. And with the stork, we see that something is set into motion here. So you could have a contract, you could make a certain connection that really kicks things off for you. And I think it's a really beneficial connection. Despite a couple of challenging possibilities that we see through the mouse and the mountain, I think this diagonal is really, really good for your money. You could get a job, you could get a customer, you could get a collaboration. It all looks really good. And certainly it's a good idea to go for it. I mean, the stork is right in the middle of everything and it's an active card. So explore and see what comes out of it. Okay, let's move on to the rows and columns. I want to start with the columns. We've got the letter, mountain, and fish. So the interesting thing about the mountain is that it can sometimes represent an obstacle, but it's also a reference to a place abroad, a location that is away from where you are. It's normally a different country, but it doesn't have to be. It could just be a place that is a distance away from you. And with the letter, it's possible that the news or what you need to send out is related to that place. So it can come from that place, or it's a place that you are following up with. And the thing about the fish is that it has to do with your money, with your investments, and income in any form that applies to you. So definitely you want to pursue whatever opportunities you may have abroad, Lapis group, and see what comes out of it. With the road, stork, and mouse, I think there could be a bit of a speed bump here, and that's because the mouse can put a bit of a challenge in things. It sort of slows things down, or it throws a few obstacles your way. The thing about the mouse is that it's not really strong, it's not super challenging, it's just annoying. And so what we see here is with the road and stork, you are ready to kick things off, and I think you have lots of enthusiasm, but then the mouse can sort of throw a wrench in your enthusiasm. So it does slow you down a little bit, and I don't think it's a big deal. I think you quickly get over it, as we're going to see in the right hand side column here. But one thing I want to caution when the mouse comes up is that you pay attention to details. So you don't want to overlook details or little things here and there just because you're finally ready to move and you just want to get moving. Be careful with that. Even if you have lots of energy and lots of enthusiasm and you do need to pick up speed, it doesn't mean that you overlook the details. As much as you can, try to focus on the little things here and there that will really help things down the line. So just a cautionary note here. Another thing is that the mouse, when it comes to people, if it represents a person, it usually points to someone who is not particularly trustworthy. So I do think that you want to be careful that whatever the news, if it applies to the news, or whatever people you are dealing with, like we saw in the first diagonal, I just want to put it out there for you, Lapis group, that not everyone is what they seem. Not everyone is someone you're going to get along with, and also take your time getting to know them. Be clear about their intentions with you, for you, or whatever context this is about. Just also another cautionary note. And I think that this has to do with the details as well. So focus on that, focus what you're hearing, the kinds of interactions that you're having, and of course the details of the news, the details of your path, just being focused on the smaller things. All right, moving on to the right-hand side column here, we have the ring, key, and garden. And this is a very exciting combination for success in a broader scale, in a general way. And of course, it's really positive for relationships. So both the ring and the garden can point to relationships. The ring is more about one-on-one relationships, and the garden is about community and society. And so together, we see that you could get a lot of success or get a lot of support from a certain group of people. You also do really well in the marketplace, you get support, you get customers, if that's what this is about, and also you collaborate in successful ways. So definitely this is an opportunity to unlock some potential here and to get involved in some exciting ways. Now, the ring can of course point to a personal relationship, and if that's the case, then it is also very successful and it moves in a direction that you want to see it move into. So this can be very exciting. You might take a vacation with someone if this is about a personal relationship. It could be moving up to the next level. It could be a time when you're just getting closer to each other. That is also possible. So any way you look at these cards, you're looking at success and accomplishment and things and potential unlocking and a lot of opportunities coming your way. Okay, let's move on to the rows. We've got the letter, road, and ring at the top here. So the letter and ring points to a collaboration or an invitation, but it can also suggest a contract. And so this again points to the idea of an engagement or an involvement. It could be at work or it could be in a more personal relationships kind of way. And with the road here, what's interesting is that the road can have to do with choices. So it's not only the idea that you're now moving into this new direction, but it's also possible that you are presented with some choices and you need to make a choice about what you get involved with next. That's because the road is associated in Lenormand and in general with the the fork in the road. So you're moving down this path and then you meet the point where it's either left or right and you have to make a choice. So you could be at crossroads and you could be at a point where you need to make a decision about what you get involved with. It's exciting though, and you are encouraged to move forward. Now, the Mountain, Stork, and Key, this is really bright for all things movement, travel. It can point to shaking things up. The Mountain can be associated with a place abroad, but it can also be associated with obstacles. So you could be at a point where you are able to overcome obstacles. Like we said, things might have been on hold or stuck, and finally you get the Stork and Key, and it unleashes this energy and you have that sense of freedom to move forward. So definitely the green light is indicated here. Travel is also possible. It can be a big move. I can't really not put it this way, because the Stork and the Mountain together can point to this idea of moving countries, moving homes, moving to a different place. And if that's what you're doing, then that is definitely the next big thing for you, Lapis group. Now, the Key is also very positive in either context. So whatever changes you're making, you are heading in the right direction, especially in view of the fact that the Key is on the right-hand side here. So this is really exciting. Okay, wrapping up with the bottom line, we have the Fish, Mouse, and Garden. When I look at the Fish and Mouse, I feel it has to do with spending. It could be that you're shopping, it could be that you're buying things. Make sure that you don't overspend, and if you can, cut out unnecessary costs, then definitely do that. That's one way to look at this line. Another way to look at it is that the Mouse and Garden here suggests that some people are not necessarily straightforward, honest, or really care about what you're up to, and we suggested that earlier in the central column. So this is highlighted again here. With the Fish, the idea of money comes through, so I would say don't be too quick to trust others with your money, whatever it is you're doing with it, or with your business and any area of your life that has to do with your finances and your material well-being. So I want you to keep this in mind. It's also possible that when you make this change, there is a time when it's a bit of a bumpy ride where things are still falling into place. And this can require a bit of attention on your part, maybe a bit of expense, some expenditures on this. But because of this line here that we saw on the right and the very positive central row here that T crosses at the Key, I think you overcome this pretty easily. The Mouse helps slow things down a little bit. It sort of causes a bit of speed bumps. So I would also say that you don't want to rush and overspend. You don't want to be too quick to make financial decisions. Take your time until you've got the right solutions and you're clear about what this is going to involve. So overall, Lapis group, what is ahead for you? Well, major change, big changes. It can be big steps. You could be traveling. There is change. There is some choice. Money is highlighted here. So this change probably has to do with your money, your source of income, your work, your business. And definitely it's exciting. So in addition to the main theme for you of what's the next big thing ahead for you being about change, we're also looking at success. So this change leads to positive results. And I would say, as a piece of advice, you want to be willing to change. You want to be willing to pick up the pace and to get moving, because this is exciting. At the same time, don't overlook the details that are coming through the Mouse. Don't overlook the little things here and there that you can pay attention to, that if you don't pay attention to, they can sort of catch up with you. So just a thought, just a cautionary thought, because there's so much going on here and it can feel like a whirlwind of activity that sort of pops up almost out of nowhere, that you don't want to lose sight of the details. So a wonderful set of cards for change and success coming up for you, Lapis group. Let me know where you think this is happening for you, and if you see it materialize, certainly come back and tell me what changes you ended up making. This is very exciting, so embrace the enthusiasm and the momentum. Until we meet again, thank you so much for watching and take good care of yourself. All right, Rose Quartz group, here we are with your reading. I've got your stone nearby, this beautiful light pink stone. And for your reading, I want to run an augmented line of 7. My deck is always shuffled, and for this reading, I like to deal out the cards. So just shuffling a little bit more to seal the intention, and let us deal out this augmented line of 7. Okay, Rose Quartz group, here are some exciting cards. What we're seeing right in the center of your augmented line is the ring. So what's ahead for you? Well, relationships or possibly a commitment. But I do think the relationship element, like the people thing, is coming through here, mainly because of the dog, but also because the ring is the card of relationships. We also have the home, which has to do with family, and we do have a couple of really bright cards. And well, that's 3 really bright cards actually. The star and the clover and the flowers, all 3 of them are some very powerful wish fulfillment cards. So as we get this overview of your augmented line, we see that what's ahead for you, the next big thing for you is a very positive relationship, but also a really important ending because of the coffin that we're seeing here at the top of your line. So let's put together these cards so that we draw out the key at the end of it, starting with the central line. We've got the bear, flowers, and anchor, and then the ring in the center, star, dog, and clover. I mean, really, any way you look at these cards, we're looking at a very positive, very supportive relationship. The bear can point to parents. I think that's possible. And because of the house in the line and the dog, we could be looking at your family home. So the dog is the junior card, the bear is the senior card, and the house here can point to family. And with the ring, it has to do with close relationships. So I have to wonder if you're not in for a reunion with your family, with your parents. The flowers is the card of renewal, of things coming back, because it's associated with spring and this idea of blooming again after the winter. And then we also have the anchor, which is very supportive, and we have the beautiful star, dog, and clover. So this looks like a wonderful relationship here that is being renewed. Of course, it can be a personal relationship or even a friendship. I would say it's also possible because of the dog. But really, this line suggests that it is a very supportive relationship and that your wish materializes for this relationship. The star and clover are wish fulfillment cards. So just backing up a little bit, backtracking to the beginning of the line, we suggested that the bear and flowers can point to the idea of parents, and we suggested that's also likely because of the dog and house. The flowers and anchor has to do with something coming back, with a reunion, with finding ground again, and with the ring we are looking at a very supportive, very trustworthy relationship. And then at the end here we've got the star and clover, pretty much similar, also similar to the flowers and their positivity, and the dog points to a very supportive friendship. So in any kind of relationship, this is a very powerful line. When it comes to love, although I'm not really seeing the love cards, I do think that it's possible for things to become more committed and more secure, and also that there is a strong friendship between you and this other person. The friendship element is really key. It is very much part of the support that makes this relationship powerful and lasting. So any way you look at this line for any kind of relationship, we're looking at wish fulfillment and hopes materializing. So this is a very powerful message for you. It's also a really positive one for what is that next big thing for you. Let's look at the central column here. It's just 3 cards. We've got the coffin, ring, and house. Very interesting. Normally the house and ring has to do with family relationships, normally. And with the coffin here, we're looking at an ending. So it's possible that either you're leaving home, you're moving on from being home, or from being part of a certain group of people. That is possible, and you're moving into possibly or committing more to this relationship. But it's also possible that someone had been away. And of course, you could have been away. And then the reunion comes here through what we saw in the central line. So this is really, really positive with regards to the central line. But the coffin can mean that you want to bring something to a close, especially with the ring, because it sort of loops, and with the house it can have to do with family. This is really possible. And like I suggested, someone could have been away, or maybe there could have been a time apart, and now is a time for reunion. Either way, it is very positive, and it leads to the wish fulfillment cards that we see here. Okay, let's bring together the cards even more with the diamonds. So we've got the anchor, coffin, star, and house. Anchor, coffin, star, and house. The idea of the ending is coming through, and it's going to come through in all the diamonds because it's going to be part of all three of them. But with the anchor, the idea of really bringing something to a close is highlighted. So this idea of an ending is very much certain with the anchor. We also have the star and house, which has to do with wish fulfillment, domestic wishes materializing. And so this can be a very bright combination for releasing something in order to make a domestic wish materialize, or a family or home related wish materialize. I have to say that it's also possible that the coffin is asking you to be patient, especially with something like the anchor, where you have to wait and be disciplined as time unfolds. It could be a while before you see this wonderful relationship materialize, or this wish fulfillment that is related to home and family materialize. But the anchor certainly tells you to hang in there. Just be patient and allow things to unfold. They are unfolding. It is going to materialize. We've got the flowers, coffin, dog, and house here. Another bright combination. The flowers and coffin has to do with that sense of renewal. So after a time of absence or a time of waiting, we see this flowers energy bringing things back into life. The dog and house can point to you if we're talking about your family and your parents. It can also point to your children if you have them. It can point to friends. It can point to colleagues in the context of work. I can't entirely dismiss that or not acknowledge it as a possibility, but the dog is supportive for friendships. And when we see it with the flowers, it is very bright and supportive. I can also suggest that it might be a time for getting together with friends and family, having some celebrations and parties. It's definitely a good time for this. There could be a major celebration at hand for you. That could be the next big thing, but it's the focus on relationships and on close relationships that matters. The bear, coffin, clover, and house is pretty similar to the other combinations. The bear and coffin is a bit like the anchor and coffin. That's because they're both very strong and solid cards, very heavy. And so this idea of really bringing something to a head is highlighted. And of course, the idea of having to be patient is possible. The clover and house is a bit like the star in the house, points to a domestic wish materializing. So what's interesting is that the inner diamond and the outer diamond are very, very similar. And the central one, or the middle one, the one between the two, has to do with this transition from the inner to the outer. But the inner and the outer are pretty similar. So we are seeing that in time there is going to be this domestic wish materialize. Family relationships do really, really well. Close relationships are wonderful. And if this is about love, then you can look forward to deepening the relationship. You could be moving in with someone, with your partner, with your lover, with your other half here. You could be marrying. That's another interpretation that I cannot dismiss too readily. It's just that the coffin can mean a bit more time needed for this, but certainly it is a very positive set of cards. And the next big thing for you, Rose Quartz Group, is wish fulfillment around relationships. Wish fulfillment around relationships. Very, very positive for your relationships. So let me know how you feel about this line of augmented 7. Leave me your comments. I am looking forward to reading them. Let me know where you're seeing this relationship wish materializing, whether it's home, family, parents, friends, possibly colleagues. I don't think so much, but possibly colleagues, and I think very powerful for a deep one-on-one relationship. I'm looking forward to your comments. Leave them below. And until we meet again, thank you so much for watching and take very good care of yourself. Hello Cat's Eye Group, welcome. We've got your stone here, this very curious and interesting stone. And for your reading, I am inclined to do a double line of 5. So these are 10 cards that are laid out in 2 rows. And of course, my deck is always shuffled between readings. Remember that we're looking at the next big thing for you. I'm just shuffling here a little bit more to seal the intention, and let's deal out these cards. Okay, here is your double line of 5. We are seeing that there's a few challenges here, Cat's Eye group. We are seeing the whip, we see the clouds, and we also see the scythe. The bird can be a little bit challenging as well, and the scythe, it doesn't have to be challenging. It can just be a neutral card, but because of the context of the other card, it does have a couple of possibilities here in terms of its aggressive side, or what it implies in terms of risk, and it alerts us to that. The man shows up in the cards. This can point to a certain relationship here that comes into play. I'm seeing a couple of travel cards, the road and the ship, and this has to do with travel, but the stork is also about travel, and actually the bird can also point to travel. And what's coming up now is that the scythe and house can point to a change. So I think that the next big thing for you, Cat's Eye group, is a major change. It can mean a trip. It can mean a radical change from where you are now, from what you're doing now. So let's weave these lines together. The picture will come up more clearly. We've got the bird, the road, the key, man, and scythe. So the bird and road can point to a short-term trip. It can be a quick trip, maybe over the weekend or so. But of course, the other cards are going to give a different indication about what this trip is about. So the idea of the bird and road can point to something a bit speedy, but it can also point to some kind of conversation that had stopped. And I say that because we have the man as well in the line. And with the man and scythe, there could be a disconnection from this person. I have to say this is really possible. Now, the key in the middle of this line is supportive, because it's all about solutions and having the right ideas, being insightful, being smart, being resourceful. All of these come into play with the key. But in the context of these cards, I have to wonder if you're not better off moving on from a person, whom I think proves to be a bit toxic because of the whip down below, but also because it's time to move on. I feel it's time to move on for you, and you are going to get that insight. You're going to make that realization. The key is really supportive in this way. And so that the right thing to do might be to move away from this person. I think this is a clear-cut possibility that is coming through this line, Cat's Eye group. I do want to add that it's possible that it's not so much about separating from a person as it is about getting the insight from a person, possibly the inspiration. And this is someone who motivates you to act quickly. I think it's possible also. I do think the first interpretation is a bit stronger, but the second one is also possible. The thing that's interesting about this line is that it happens very quickly. The key is about the now, being present in the now. The bird is quick. The scythe is very quick and very sharp. The road can be fast, but it doesn't have to be. Because of the cards around it, I think it makes it fast. And of course, the man is neutral in these ways. So this line here can mean that you need to make a decision very quickly, and that moves and changes happen really fast. So I want you to be ready for having to act on your feet, Cat's Eye group, because something important can come through that will cause a radical change for you, and you want to be ready to act on your feet. Now, the bottom line, I think the bottom line is more expressive in terms of what's going on. It's very clear to me that something shakes you out of the current scenario, moves you to a different place. The stork and the ship are both movement cards, and when we see the ship and the house, it can also mean a house move. I would have preferred to see the house before the ship for this, but it's also possible for it to be a house move in this order, and especially because the scythe and house are figuring in a combination here. So I really think that the bottom line is telling you that you need to shake out of your hesitation or whatever challenges are represented here, and you need to make a move. It's possible that there are issues on the home front or in this current group that you're part of. It doesn't have to be home and family. It can be colleagues at work. It can be where you work. or a group that you're part of. And the whip in clouds is pretty challenging. It brings up any number of issues. With the clouds, I think it's important to bring issues out into the surface so they can be dealt with. I really think that the whip has that power to, whip up a storm, if you like, and bring things out into the open so that the issues can be dealt with. But it's also possible that the whip has that element of bringing things into speed, making things faster. With the stork and whip, it can point to that, and the whip in clouds as well. The whip in clouds, in the sense, can suggest that you stop hesitating, that you stop wobbling, that you just pick up and move and get going. And the clouds in ship can also suggest that, and it can also suggest that you move past this area or situation of hesitation that you're in. Just move past these clouds and into a clearer decision kind of making, and we're going to see this here, and the idea of making a move away from where you are right now. These changes can come in the wake of challenges, and the idea that you just want to shake yourself out of them. What's interesting is that the stork and ship is often the combination of migration. It doesn't have to be such a move for you specifically, but I do think that changes are very much ahead. And I think that's the next big thing for you. I think there's a big change, and possibly a radical change, that involves physical moves and changes. It also involves a person whom either supports you with making that move or is precisely part of the situation that you are separating yourself from. Very clear that changes need to happen. And it's also clear that you need to be sharp and decisive, and to be really possibly even aggressive with this change, really picking yourself up, picking your energy, and making that move. Okay, let's look at the columns here, the small 2-card pairs. We've got the bird and the stork. Again, I think this idea of change happens through these 2 cards, but the bird can be a bit of an anxiety-causing card. So it can mean that you are nervous and anxious, and you just want to get going and get moving. I think it's a good thing to act on this. The road and whip is challenging. It can mean that the path that you're on is challenging and that you need to make some big changes to where you're heading. Obviously, we're seeing this mirrored in the whole double line of 5. It can also be a warning against where you're heading. So maybe you think you're heading in the right direction, but actually you're not. And this is where you need to stop and pick up and make those changes, big changes. The key and clouds is lovely, and I really like to see it in the center of the double line of 5 here. Even though the clouds is a bit challenging, it has to do with confusion and hesitation, the key is actually beautiful in the sense that it unlocks your clarity. You're able to brainstorm solutions, you're able to concentrate and come up with solutions and ideas. It's very clear from this combination that you need to be resourceful. You really need to dig within yourself and pull out miracles and solutions so that you can deal with this big change that is happening for you and to shake yourself out of it. The man and ship can point to this person traveling, this person moving. It's a pretty neutral combination. It's also possible that you travel to meet this person, or that they come to your support, like we suggested in other combinations as well. And then the scythe and house is a very clear combination of a radical change. I think you could be uprooting yourself, and really that is the next big thing that is happening for you. There's a big change, a radical change, whether it's about changing the path you're on or moving away from your entire situation. And if this man is someone you also leave behind, or if it's about someone who supports you, in any case, the cards are very, very clear about the need for you to make a really big change, really being sharp and decisive with this. It can involve travel. It doesn't have to. It can involve big travel. You could be moving countries and things like that. And it's also very clear that you are sort of uprooting yourself, changing foundations, and going into a different direction. So that is the next big thing for you, Cat's Eye group. Brace yourself for a possibly bumpy ride, but also for your ability to bring out solutions, maybe ones you didn't expect you can pull off, and to be ready to separate from what you've been doing, where you currently are, and getting ready for something different. I want to wrap up with a few more combinations. I'm looking at the diagonals. I'm looking for the ones that are interesting. When we look at this line here, I'm seeing mirrored images. The bird and owl can point to a difficult conversation. Maybe that's also what's reflected here. But with the key, ship, and scythe, I think it's pretty clear that you need to overcome this, and that you will, and that part of the solution is to move away and to make changes. And then we look at this combination here. We see the stork road, clouds, man, and house. Clearly, the idea of travel and change is indicated by the stork and road. The clouds in the middle suggest a bumpy ride, especially next to the road. And then the man and house here points to someone in your environment, possibly the one whom you release, or someone who is supportive. So it's really clear to me, Cat's Eye Group, that you're in for some possibly radical changes. Changes, yes, but they can also be really radical changes. And that's the next big thing for you. Be ready to shake yourself out of anything that's keeping you stuck, and to be really decisive about the changes that you're making, and to head down in this direction. Be clear about this relationship here. If it's over, it's over. Move on. Don't hang on. And also trust yourself to bring out solutions. Think hard, brainstorm solutions, and think about as much as you can in view of how fast this these two lines are happening. But think about your direction, and also think about your own self-interest. So a very powerful set of cards here, Cat's Eye Group. Brace yourself for a bumpy ride, but also for some radical changes. And let me know where it plays out for you. I'm really looking forward to your thoughts, your comments. Leave them below. Can't wait to read them. This is so busy and exciting and powerful. So thank you so much for tuning in. And until we meet again, I want to say take really, really good care of yourself. Okay, Serpentine Group, here we are with your cards and your stone, this lovely greenish stone. And for your reading, Serpentine Group, I am inclined to do a medium-sized diamond. I didn't pre-plan this. I'm just going with what I feel like doing on the spur of the moment. Of course, my deck is shuffled, and I just saw the bear fall out of the cards. The bear is about anything important, big steps forward, leadership, possibly a promotion on the job. So that's a good sign to keep in mind. I'm just going to put it back into the deck, and we are going to draw our medium-sized diamond. My deck is always shuffled between readings. I just like to reshuffle a little bit to set the intention. And with the diamond, I like to just deal out the cards. So here we go. And these are some exciting cards. It's interesting that we have the clover at the top and the whip at the bottom. The clover is one of the luckiest cards, and the whip is one of the most challenging cards. We have the idea of a new beginning coming through. Our bear popped up, and the idea of career is coming through, not only through the lily, but also through the tower. So I really think that the next big thing for you, Serpentine Group, just from looking at the cards in this bird eye view, is a long-term phase unfolding, a new beginning in your career, and an important step up. I think that is the next big thing. There's this interesting dynamic here happening with the whip. We're going to get into it in just a bit. Let's start weaving the lines, starting with the central row. We've got the road, the tower, and the lily. This is definitely a combination of time and of slowness. So things had been unfolding over time. The tower is about the past, the long term, long time, the idea of things unfolding over time. It is slow and careful, and so is the lily. And with the road, we are really getting a sense of this important thing unfolding. What's interesting is that both the tower and the lily have this broad perspective on life. They're about life and lifetime. And so I feel that with the road in here, we are looking at a major milestone. I think it's a milestone that you complete because we are looking at the child as a new beginning, or that it is an important new phase of life that you're going into. And I think this is really exciting because this is beyond the day-to-day stuff. This is turning the new page, moving into a new chapter, a whole new milestone opening up. So this is looking like it's really, really exciting. Now let's look at this column here, the clover, tower, and whip. Again, this tower in the middle has to do with this long term, the past, and phases and chapters in life. With the whip, there could be a challenge. With the clover, There could be something really positive happening. So it's a bit of a contrast here, and I have to say this doesn't happen frequently. I think the contrast is really coming through because the Tower is a neutral card. So it's not really positive, it's not really negative, so there is this tug happening between the Clover and Whip. What's interesting is that the Clover is at the top, so this has to do with your hopes and your intentions, but the Whip is at the bottom, which has to do with what manifests. So I do think that some challenges are possible, but what I am seeing in light of this very important central line is that you may be better off releasing the past in order to move into the new. And we see this here. We see that the new beginning is going to be a bit challenging, but I also think that letting go and moving on from the past is important. I think this works well with the idea that you're in for a new chapter, that you're in for a new phase of life. I also think that these two cards have to do with this idea of growing up and maturing, along with the Bear, which has to do with leadership and stepping up. And so I really feel that this is a point of growth and a turning point in your path where you are growing up to the next level. I think you need to release something from the past, and I think this can be a bit challenging. And yes, I do think the new beginning can be also challenging, but this is important, not only for the short term, but it's important for the long term. This is about the long term, who you are over the long term, your life path ahead. So this reading is really not day-to-day stuff, like the next big thing happening is not an everyday event. It is a big deal that affects your life. You are maturing. The next big thing for you is a sense of maturing and going into a new life chapter. Now let's look at the square cards. We've got the Bear, Garden, Child, and Heart. This is very positive for new beginnings. The Bear is an important step up. With the Garden, it can refer to work, as can the career. Card represented by the lily. And so you could be looking at a new job, one that pays better, one where you have a better position. And with the Child and Heart and Bear, it looks really, really positive. I think it aligns really well with what you want. So it's a bit like you get the position that you want, you're growing in ways that you want. And again, the cards are really, really supportive of your career growth. The Bear, Tower, and Child points to an important new beginning, and also releasing the past through the Tower and Child. But the Bear and Tower can also point to leadership and authority. This is a combination of people like CEOs and people in authorities, offices of importance. It can point to government, but I don't think it's really relevant to you unless you are in office. And with the Child here, we are looking at a wonderful new position, a wonderful new level of growth. I think a promotion is very much possible. And I definitely think that the cards encourage you to step up and to grow up and to shoulder more responsibility. The Heart, Tower, and Garden is also very supportive. The Tower is again about growth, possibly the past, and the Heart and Garden has to do with that sense of fulfillment. So again, this idea of growth makes you happy. It is definitely something that you'd been after. I think the idea of wish fulfillment and seeing your wishes materialize is possible through this diamond, but it's not so much the focus. The next big thing for you is really that sense of growth and career growth, the idea that you're maturing and moving into a new phase of life. So we are looking at that as your main focus. And it's also, there is a sense of quietness in the cards, despite the Whip. I think the Whip is more about challenge in here, probably with making that transition more so than it shaking things up and things being really busy. I think the unfolding happens pretty quietly and steadily and possibly gradually, and the Whip is just that challenge that you need to move past in order to move into this new chapter. But here it's all super positive. Let's wrap up with the diamond sides. Clover, Garden, Lily, very positive combination for work and career. I think you land into a new position. The Child and Whip can make things a bit challenging, as can the Whip and Heart into the road. I think it's really the transition into this new beginning that can prove to be a bit challenging for you, Serpentine. I don't think the challenge is the focus. It's part of it, but the focus is the change and the growth, the maturing, the next phase of your life that is now coming into your presence. So it's really powerful in the sense of change, deepening, maturity, and all that. And to put the Whip in that context, it is that letting go. The idea that that's it, you know, that past phase is closing, it's over, and now you want to mature and move into a new beginning. So that can be possibly a bit painful, maybe complicated. Because of the heart, I feel you could be possibly regretful of the past, or maybe a bit nostalgic. I think that's possible, but definitely moving into this new beginning is key, and it is very important for you. We've got the road, the bear, and the clover, and this is very positive, and this is very positive for your growth and for this new path ahead. The clover is a lovely card. It's an all-around success card. And I like how it wraps up with the bear. And remember, we saw the bear fall out of the deck. And so it could be a more important sign, a more important combination. The bear and clover is all-around luck. And it's a lot of empowerment here. Definitely growth, responsibility, maturing, empowerment. This is the next big thing for you. You're growing up. You're moving on to the next level. This is great. I think it can be relieving. Release the past. Release your old self. You can let that go. What's ahead is probably going to be more exciting and more empowering, that's for sure. So let me know how you feel about these cards, Serpentine. I'm really looking forward to your thoughts and your comments. Let me know how it's playing out, where you saw this unfolding for you. What is this new chapter? And let me know. I'm looking forward to your thoughts and comments. So until we meet again, thank you so much for watching, and take very good care of yourself. All right, Bloodstone group, here we are with your reading and your lovely dark colored stone here sitting on the side. And for your reading, I would like to do a 9-card portrait. Of course, my cards are shuffled in between readings. I just like to give them a little bit of a shuffle before starting, just to seal the intention. So with a 9-card reading, I like to fan out the deck and select the cards. All right, Bloodstone group, here we are with your 9-card portrait. This is quite a portrait, I have to say. We have a few challenging cards here. We have a new beginning, and we have the dog. I have to wonder if this isn't about letting go of a certain relationship. There is quite a bit of shakeup here for you. And I think that a radical change and a very important new beginning is possible. You might need to release something very decisively and move into a new beginning, even though it's a bit messy, or you feel a little bit all over the place, but definitely you're in for a big change. Another thing that I'm seeing through this is mainly coming through the book and scythe, or the letter and scythe, and this is an important revelation. I think this could be the next big thing for you, the focus that is coming through here, and not so much the challenge. There is a significant revelation, major bit of information that comes through, and it sort of shakes things up for you. It does move you into a new beginning, but I'm of two minds here. I think if it's the new beginning that is the next big thing for you, or if it's the news. Of course, it can be both. I'm just thinking out loud what could be the one that has the most weight. And I have to say that because of the first card and the central card, and these are the two most important cards of the portrait, it is that revelation. You see the book, it breaks open with the scythe, and there is a revelation. So let's weave the cards together and put this portrait together for you. The book, scythe, and dog. Like we said, this is a major revelation, and the dog can be the person who reveals it. Another way to look at the dog is that it has to do with a friend. Of course, the dog has to do with a friend regardless, but with the book, scythe, and dog in this order, it can mean that this revelation is about this person. Because of the challenge that we see here and the snake and moving on, it can be something disappointing. And it does change your mind about this person and gets you to move away from them, move into a different relationship. So that is very, very important and very likely. And this idea of the revelation, or this knowledge that comes through, this information that comes through, is really key. The snake, scythe, and child is very clear about a new beginning. The scythe is cutting, letting go, releasing. It's very sharp. And with the snake, it adds to this. The snake is a card that turns away, moves away, usually in the wake of a disappointment, probably like what we saw in the first diagonal and what we're going to see here. And it encourages you to turn away into a new direction. A new direction is definitely at hand for you, Bloodstone group. And it comes in the wake of this revelation. Very important piece of information that comes through. The snake and whip are sort of contrasting in the sense that if I were to give you a piece of advice, about how you should move away from this, I would say it's a combination of being decisive, and then when you actually move away, you might want to take a stand if it's relevant, but also don't hang on. And I would also say, from the contrast between the whip and snake in this area, I would say don't try to go over your point too many times. As they say, don't beat a dead horse. Make your point, but then move on and don't hang on. I think this is going to be the most effective way for you. It's important that you feel strong in your confidence. It's important that you feel convinced about your decision to move on from this. And I'm pretty sure that with this information, you'll have all the tools and all the ideas that you need to bring this decision together and to actually go with it. The columns and rows are next. I want to start with the columns. We've got the book, mountain, and snake. The mountain can sometimes represent a place abroad, a location abroad. I'm not seeing this so much here. I think this is an obstacle. The mountain can be a rigid card where things are stuck, things aren't moving. And so with the book and snake, it can mean that something was not revealed for a while. The snake and book is definitely some kind of secret. And with the mountain, it can mean that it was stuck and really not revealed. Very aligned with what we saw in the diagonals. Let's continue with the story, the letter, scythe, and sun. Very similar to what we saw in the first diagonal, the idea of this news coming through, this information coming through. The scythe has this energy of breaking things open. So if they were on hold or hidden, it really is able to break through that door and to bring out what's behind it. The sun is really positive in that sense, in the sense that it gives you the information that you need, that finally there's clarity, finally we have knowledge. This is very important, and I think that's the next big thing for you. Finally, there is that piece of information that you were after, and this is great. The child, whip, and dog. I think something's going to come up with this person. I really think that this information is about them, from them. It does something about your relationship with them. And it can mean that you shake them off, that you let them go, that you have an argument with them, and that you move on. I think you move on, but also the child and sun, being very positive cards, can mean that you're able to move past it, so you're not really hanging on to it. So yes, it's disappointing, or yes, it's maybe shocking information because of the scythe, really, but you're able to move on, and I think you're really convinced about how you deal with this. You know, you really put things into perspective and in the right place, and you got the right outlook on all of it. The child and whip can also mean that this new beginning that you move into as a result of this information, this revelation, can be a bit challenging. So, you know, first steps are difficult. It can also mean with the dog that this is something that you're new at. So you don't have much experience with it. You're feeling a bit naive. You're feeling not so confident about moving into this direction. Yes, it can be a bit bumpy in this way, but still you're going to move forward with it. And the scythe, you know, this decisive energy that it brings is going to help you push you over the other side and move forward with it. So these are a couple of ways we can look at this line. Let's move to the rows. The book, letter, and child. The book and letter is one of those special combinations I inherited from Titania Hardy. It has to do with very important news that comes through shortly, and with the child it has to do with a new beginning. So there's very important news that comes. I think this is definitely the next big thing for you, is this revelation, this piece of news that is shocking, or, you know, it shakes things into motion. It brings things into the open. It has that powerful energy of revelation. Okay, moving on to the second row. We've got the mountain, scythe, and whip. This is a challenging combination. The scythe and whip can be pretty challenging. They're the two most challenging cards figuring together. Yes, the scythe can be neutral sometimes, but it also has that risky, dangerous, cutting side to it very clearly. And with the whip, this side of it is brought out. The thing about the mountain in here is that it's not so much danger anymore, but it's the idea of breaking through the barrier. And like we said earlier, that this information was being withheld. It was a secret. It was behind doors. And then we saw with the scythe and different rows and diagonals that something breaks open. So I really think that this could be a continued interpretation of this idea through the T-cross that we see here. The Scythe and Whip is challenging, yes. So maybe it's going to take a lot to bring this out into the open, or maybe once it's in the open, it causes the challenge that we saw here with this person. And I think this challenge with this person is the more likely interpretation. So brace yourself for a major revelation. I think this is really the next big thing for you. Major revelation shakes things up, can cause an argument, and also move you into a new direction. The Snake, Sun, and Dog is very positive. Well, it is positive thanks to the Sun in the middle. The Snake and Dog is a bit tricky. I think the Snake can come to your advantage in the sense that it keeps you wise and focused on your goals. And, you know, the Snake is really self-interested, and it's really focused, you know. So when it comes to other people, the Snake helps you really put into perspective who supports you, who doesn't support you. And also in the context of the challenge that we saw with this person, you're best moving on. Now, I want to say that it's possible to make things up. Now, I want to say that it's possible to fix things, to readjust the situation, a little bit like I suggested here. But I don't think that they go back to what they were. If that's the possibility, I don't think they go back to what they were. There's just too much stuff being shaken up here, and this revelation is just too strong for it to not make a difference to how things move forward. Okay, that's how I want to put it. But the Snake is also good with relieving you, like we saw in the central column here. The idea of relief, the idea that you're no longer attached, you can be free. Yes, it's a challenging transition possibly into that, but this is definitely what your focus should be once this whole thing is revealed and all of this is brought out into the open. So brace yourself, Bloodstone group, for quite a bit of things being shaken up here. I have to say that it's a pretty powerful set of cards, and I think the next big thing for you is this major revelation that changes things around for you, causes an issue with a friend, moves you into a new direction. All of this we're seeing here. It does bring about relief as well, so I think it has a positive side, but I think there's no turning back from this Bloodstone group. I think you really need to see things for what they are. You need to be clear about what this is, what is being revealed here, and to acknowledge it and to see it squarely, because it's going to change what happens down the line. Powerful, powerful. So let me know what you make of these cards, Bloodstone group. This is, again, a very powerful set of cards, so I'm really looking forward to your thoughts on this one. And until we meet again, I want to say thank you so much for tuning in, and take very good care of yourself.